owe it to ourselves and to the society we operate in and to the children we're going to have and the grandchildren or the generations to come, that what we do as we play with these things is to figure out how to deliver value, because these are tools that no generation has had before. The kind of blockages that happen are things like DRM. Okay? You may be worried about saying the internet was not actually designed to become a new distribution mechanism for Hollywood or for the music industry. It was designed to have people work with each other, to collaborate, to share. So we start putting things in the way, where you need to have more passwords than you could shake a stick at, and so many additional rights before someone can believe that it's yours. I mean, my daughter uses a phone where once a week I got to go home and fix the fact that something she's got on the phone she can't get to. Years ago, when my wife brought home a game for my daughter to play, and it was something like, Barbie Goes Dancing or whatever. And I get a phone call at work because the protection around the PC meant that she didn't have the right to run a CD in order to load the game up. Because I put some form of profiling because I was trying to protect the child from going to the wrong sites. But the unintended consequence was she couldn't even play a child's game. This could get serious. I could have my daughter on holiday in Thailand or something, which is what she did. She's 24. And if she was ill, and I can't get the information about her medical records to her because there's crap in the way. Permissions I have to get that I couldn't imagine. One, to get her records out to the NHS here, two, to get the records into the hospital she's in, and then to figure out that nothing in the way is preventing me from passing it. Because free flow of information is important to achieve these things, and we're putting in barriers without worrying about it, without understanding what could be done, and we have to think about that. There's also a lot of pollution. If you look at the information on the web, most of us have got used to the concept of saying if you're going to eat some food that's packaged, you look at the sell-by date. Okay? Because food has a strange habit of hiding inside a fridge, quietly getting to the sell-by date, and you always take it out 2 days after it's gone past. Okay? Which is a terrible thing about a developed world, that when you look into a bin, maybe a fifth of the bin is things that you haven't quite got to or haven't quite finished before it finishes. The same is true for information. Right? There have been many cases. Most famous was United Airlines losing 93% of their value because by mistake somebody published a 7-year-old story as if it was yesterday. And people thought they were going bankrupt again. And everybody sold their shares. And most of the value of the company went. But when you go to the web, it's not always easy to tell when something happened. So for us, we have to start learning like translating is important, and bigger fonts are important, and being able to hear it is important rather than just read it. Also knowing when becomes valuable. Having provenance, knowing who, becomes important. And the damage that is being done, you've got to think of as if it's an ecosystem. Because today you saw a very simple example of saying, no connection between wireless problems apparently and Google Groups problems apparently and people not turning up or whatever else, but actually there is. Because when we are designing these things, we are not thinking about all the incredible uses that a group like this can put to that, how we can really make a difference on health, on education, on welfare, on e-government, because it's a palaver, it's such a pain. Who wants to get engaged with something when it's frustrating to do? And today, most of the computing we face, most of these services we face, right, are designed for nincompoops. Right? It's like finding out who. When I get onto a plane, and sadly I have to fly quite a bit. I don't particularly enjoy it, but it goes with the territory and I'll do it. But when I fly, I know one thing. I have never met the person for whom the airline seat was designed. I don't understand. Medieval torture instrument, perhaps. But you cannot tell me that they said, we're going to look at 1 million people and figure out their size and shape, and then we're going to design a seat that's suited for that person's size and shape. Because it's just not true. I'm going to stop with that. The intent was to give you a feel for the power and the value of information, the amazingness of the age we live in, the importance of thinking about social inclusion, physical, economic, or even educational barriers to it, the opportunities we have in the environment we live in to make a good thing of it, or to sit back and not. And the big difference is, it may be a hackneyed phrase, but it's very much an if not now, when, if not us, whom. Because we are the generation, digital immigrants or digital natives, who have opportunities that people didn't have before. And the things we do will influence the laws that get made. Even today, there's a digital economy bill that's being debated. Right? And there are things in that bill that will make a difference. But there's no value to debating that if people like you don't feel that these assets are worthwhile, don't feel that these principles are worthwhile. So at that, I'm going to shut up, pass back to Sue, and be open for questions and conversation. Thank you.
Last week, they were all getting excited about Web 3 and what that meant to society. Have you got some sort of knowledge that you can sort of
Well, there aren't any sort of silver bullets or hidden secrets. Right? Tim Berners-Lee himself is not a particular fan of the phrase Web 2. So I'm just going to feel that it's about the evolution of the web rather than say Web 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Some people have said that the first generation of the web was read-only. That a small group of people knew how to get data onto the web, and for most of us it was like television, meaning you could see it, but you couldn't do much about it. And that the second generation of the web was read-write. That we started being able to put things ourselves on, but there's a lot of crap out there. And that the third generation will start concentrating on cleaning up that crap. So, I'm using sort of technical terms. Fundamentally, the next generation will see, what engineers and scientists have called the semantic web come up more, that the way you process that information, the idea of tags to the info, will become more easy to handle within your browser, that the linked data, sort of the way to prove that the data in the background is real, is correct, is valuable, is by getting multiple sources for that data and then triangulating it to say, well, if two different sources say that, then the data is more likely to be accurate. So there are different tools and techniques being taken to improve what's at the back. So if we can improve the quality of the data at the back end, if we can improve the way we access the data, if we can improve how we edit or enrich that data, right? I mean, again, an aside, one of the most brilliant sort of simple statements I've ever heard about how a collective creates value was to do with Wikipedia and Clay Shirky talking about why Wikipedia worked. And he said it's because the cost of repairing was lower than the cost of damaging, or at least as low as. So if you imagine chewing gum, right, it costs 3p for a stick of gum and it costs 10p to take that stick of gum off of pavement. What's going to happen? There's going to be gum on pavements. If it costs X to buy a can of spray paint, and a lot more than X to restore a wall to the way it looked like before somebody graffitied it, what's the outcome? You will have graffiti. Because you can never repair something